So let's get right into it. A day or two ago, a couple days ago, it was announced that Sam Darnold was traded from the Jets to the Carolina Panthers. Darnold, who was the third overall pick in 2018, was traded to Carolina for a sixth-round pick this year, and then a second round and a fourth-round pick next year. So I'll kind of give you guys my thoughts. We've talked a lot about lately the NFL draft, all the quarterback stuff going on. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is presumably going to be the number one overall pick. Although I have a little bit of a theory about that with some of the Justin Fields stuff going on. But we've talked a lot about that. But this pretty much signals to everyone that the Jets are going quarterback at number 2. So with the 49ers at number 3, it's very possible we're going to go quarterback, and then we'll see what the Falcons do. So my initial take on this was, nobody really was surprised. I wasn't surprised. People have not in New York haven't really been sure about Sam Darnold anyway. He's had some flashes of being good, but then he had some injuries. He had mono for a few weeks, I think, in his first or second season. Who gets mono? I don't know. Poor guy. As a Browns fan, there was a short period of time where I was in love with Sam Darnold because I was in love with all of the quarterbacks in that draft class. I've since moved off of that. I kind of think he's just another guy, but maybe he could do something in Carolina. What I like about this situation, and this is a little bit of a different angle on it, is the new GM, Joe Douglas. Been in football a long time, obviously. To be a GM, you kind of need to. He comes from Philly. He was with Philly from 2016 to 2019, part of their Super Bowl run. He's made some comments about the Darnold trade, and he said that, if they weren't in the number 2 overall spot, they would have felt fine going into the season with Sam Darnold. And I like the candor. I believe that. Joe Douglas I don't know anything about the actual guy, but from everything I've read about him, he seems like a straight shooter, and I like that he is saying that. Maybe he's saying that because he actually likes Sam as a person and wishes him well, but doesn't think he's a good football player. Who knows? If he was that good, they would have kept him. But I think this is a huge move for the Jets, even though it's the Jets, and there's not a whole lot of hope there. Scotty, what do you think?
Okay, so of course the GM is going to say that, I felt really good about going into the season with Sam Darnold as our quarterback, because number one, he needed to make sure the trade value was high on this guy so they can get the most out of him. But that's what coaches and GMs do. I mean, I'm sure that the Bears are super pumped about having Andy Dalton as their quarterback this year, but that doesn't mean they actually really are that excited. So I don't really buy that. I think that this probably is, just the worst thing that could happen for Justin Fields, I think, because, if the Jets actually did feel good about Sam Darnold, they would absolutely trade down from that spot and get a lot more in terms of value of picks and other players. They have a huge opportunity to, really bolster that roster, which has holes everywhere. So this just shows how down they are on Sam Darnold, that they know that they need to get a quarterback for the future. And that's why they're keeping that number 2 spot. And it's unfortunate that Justin Fields is probably going to end up there because he would be much better in a whole lot of other places. So I think that kind of encapsulates my thoughts.
I don't know. I mean, I think it would be the most Jets thing in the world to go Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, some of these guys that have just caught a lot of buzz in the last couple of months, and leave 49ers to take Fields is going to be awesome. But I don't know.
It's possible, but I guess the problem is that I'm still not sure that I am really sold on Justin Fields as going to be like an amazing franchise quarterback. So the fact that pick at number 2, given the fact that his draft stock, and we think we talked about this last time, his draft stock is unreasonably taking a hit. But in the media, the Jets are going to go with what is going to be automatically described as a silly pick from all the scout standpoints. So then he's going to come in a big market, all the media with like these high expectations of them maybe reaching or whatever, and it's just going to be problematic for someone who really does need to prove themselves if they go to New York.
You're saying Justin Fields is yeah. He's a great prospect. People have tons of. What are you talking about?
I think we just talked last podcast about how it was like Fields and Lawrence were the guy, and then all of a sudden these other people have come out of the woodwork. Okay, and Justin Fields has his value has seemingly dropped.
It's
Okay,
his
so where
perceived
now
value, Scotty.
right. It's exactly his perceived value has dropped to where now the ESPN corporate conglomerate who controls the thought of all sports talk is saying Fields isn't going to be as good as all these other quarterbacks. You have Kuiper and McShay out there saying that Fields should be drafted maybe top 10, but probably top 15. And now the Jets are going to take him at number 2. So now ESPN's going to be talking about how they just totally reached for him. They could have traded down. They made all these mistakes, whatever. There's going to be all this pressure on Fields now as the number 2 pick instead of maybe, falling down to, some other team at a lower pick that has a little bit less attention on him. I think it's just a bad situation for Fields.
Yeah, but but Scotty, we talked all about last time we talked about Fields is all of the smoke and mirrors that come up with it. And real football people know how good Justin Fields is. There's not been any football played in the last couple months when all of this talk. We've had a couple pro days, which I'm into, but it doesn't change what real football people think. So when you say this is the worst thing for Justin Fields, I completely disagree. I would agree with you if you are buying into and feeding the whole media narrative of, oh, he's got a ton of pressure now because the Jets reached on him when everybody thought that he should have dropped. That's baloney. It has always been Lawrence and Fields, and it still is.
I completely understand your point from a football person perspective. But that media is a real deal. I mean, that impact is significant. Look at what happened to Mark Sanchez. All the attention that was on him, and he just fell apart. He mentally crumbled.
Yeah, he fell apart in like multiple AFC Championship games. I mean, come on, Stephen A. Smith doesn't play on the field. All right, I mean, he didn't control the game.
But he plays in your head.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think a lot of the time, like with those very high draft quarterbacks, there's just a ton of pressure anyway on them because they're going to arguably the worst teams in the league, and they're the ones who are supposed to turn everything around. It's like you can't just have a quarterback and expect them to be what turns everything around. You need like a lot of puzzle pieces, especially in franchises like the Jets, where it's like they don't really have a lot, so they need to fill a lot more than just a quarterback. And
yeah,
I don't know. There's just too much pressure there.
Yeah, well, here's what I'll say about it. Joe Douglas, we went out and got your quarterback. You're going to go out and get you got your head coach. You're going to go out and get your quarterback. There's no excuses now. It's go time. Put the team together. Last thought on Darnold. Scotty, good or bad trade for the Jets?
They got good value for Darnold, I think.
Drew?
I would say it's an okay trade.
I would say it's a good trade too, especially if you are someone like Joe Douglas. When you didn't even draft the guy, there's no shame in trading him away. Get whatever you could get. So cool. All right. So if you've listened this far, you must, for some reason, like what you've heard. So given that, please remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to follow us on Twitter @ObsessionCast for all future episode updates and whatever else we might post, sports related or otherwise. Thanks for watching.